Alright, we saw the important facts about the user default printer. Let's see what the report restricted printers are and how we can benefit from that feature. In short, the report restricted printers feature defines the combinations of printers and reports that are not allowed. I have here some previous setup, so I will reset it by selecting all printers and clicking the Allow All Reports menu item. This will in bulk put everything into the initial state that you can expect upon the installation. If you are printing the checks, then you have probably encountered the following situations. Users accidentally print the check report to a non-check printer, or they print a non-check report to a check printer. Or if you have a special printer for invoices, then it is also unacceptable to print other reports on it. This is where the restriction of the printer-report relationship helps. This is one possible way to look at the restrictions by printer. On the left side we have all printers registered in the current company. I have selected a dedicated check printer, and in the main form I can specify which reports are allowed to be printed to this printer, and in the restricted reports group there will be the reports which aren't allowed for this printer. Initially they are all allowed, but I want this check printer to be offered only when I print the check report, so I will select all reports here, unselect the check US report, and click this right arrow to move the selected reports to the restricted reports group. This setup now means the following. When I print any of the reports from the restricted reports group, check printer won't be offered in the printer's lookup. And if I print the check US report, check printer will be offered. And we need a completely opposite setup for all the other printers. For example, I want the printer A1 to be offered when I print any other report but the check US report. I can select the check US report and move it to the restricted reports group. I can keep selecting all the other printers one by one and making sure that the check US report is restricted for them, or I can do it all at once from the View by Report form. I will select the check US report and move all printers except the check printer to the restricted side. Before we can test this configuration, there is one more thing we should do. Notice the warning here that the restriction hasn't been enabled yet. You can first work on all these combinations, and once they seem fine, you do the final step, activate the restriction. We can follow this link to go actually back to the top-level printer setup, where we have the restricted printers mode lookup. No restriction simply means that all that setup doesn't have any effect, as if it didn't exist. I will select the full restriction, and I would invite you to check our how-to manual for the restricted printers to learn about the difference between the offered options. I will go again into the restricted printer setup, where we see the green message telling us that the configuration is now active. Let's verify this configuration on the example of number of workers report. Printers are sorted alphabetically, so if the check printer was allowed for this report, it would be visible here after B and before H. With this we confirm that the check printer is really not offered for the non-check reports. In a similar way, if I was to print a check report, I would get only the check printer offered in the lookup. Of course, there is always the default printer at the top of the printer's lookup. That's why there is going to be also a runtime validation. During the report execution, we will first resolve the default printer for the current user, and then validate the resolved printer against the restricted printer's configuration. If the user default printer turns out to be restricted for the currently executing report, we will get a runtime error. That was the explanation of the report restricted printers feature.